Good morning, this is Michael Oster with Michael Oster Photography out of Tampa, Florida. Today I'm going to show you how I edit an all ambient real estate shot I did for a home in Indian Rocks Beach, very close to the beach, very beachy. It's on a canal. This is the kitchen. I shot all ambient. So I did a 3-shot bracket. And again, my brackets, if you've seen my other videos or if you've been on shoots with me, you know I don't do brackets in increments, in set increments, the way that most people do. So what I did here was, this is my normal image, or what you would call a base image. I shot ISO 100, 22 millimeters. I was using a 16-35 lens on a Sony a7R III, 0.6 of a second. My second shot, I want to say I was at least 2 stops under, but I'm exposing for these cans here. They were the brightest light source in the this part of the home. This was, again, ISO 100, f11, 22 millimeter. That didn't change, and I'm on a tripod, of course, and I was at 1/15 of a second. And I was judging this not only by the camera metering, but by the zebra stripes. So I have my camera set to zebra. It will flash stripes and show me when I am 95% of, or 95% just below clipping, and so I will use that in addition to my camera metering. That I got from my old video production days. Third shot, I was overexposed purposefully, and I'm exposing for shadows, darker areas here, and I was at 1.6 seconds. Everything else stayed the same. Usually I expose camera metering, and of course Zebra is going to tell me most of my stuff's blown out, no big deal, but my camera metering is telling me I'm at least 1.3 to 1.7 stop above, and I'm doing that again to pull to make sure I've got something to read the shadows with. And of course there are lighting issues all over the place here. So I've got all this tungsten yellow light here. That's coming from the interior lights of the home. Outside to the right of the image, camera right, is going to be these big windows that are blasting in all this light off the water and off the green grass. And I have another shot to show you. This is from a different angle. So this will show you there are the windows. So that's bleeding in most of my light. So the first thing I'm going to do here, and again this is going to take me longer to do since I'm doing a tutorial, to edit this in reality is a fraction of the time, of course. I'm going to check white balance. So I get my color picker here. I know the ceiling is supposed to be white. This is telling me 2800 Kelvin, and I just know from memory that that is too cold. I tried this earlier, got a better shot. These cabinets are supposed to be white or very close to it. 3050 plus 3 is a hair warmer than what I remember it being. So I'll drop this down to 2950. So I dropped it down 100 degrees Kelvin, 2950, and that's real close to where I was. But it shows you I've got other problems. Blue light / green light coming in from off the outside here, off the sky and off the grass, is giving me some color issues. So I'll show them to you here when I scroll up to my HSL color. If I go and pump the blues, you see all this blue light that's not supposed to be here. I could pull it down all the way, but then I lose the blue in this image. So that's one problem. Other problem is purple. People, they usually don't mess with this, but I found this can be a problem. Look what it's doing down here below. So in addition to the blue cast, you're getting a purple cast here that we really don't need. So I'm going to drop that for the most part. Magenta, wherever there's purple casting, there tends to be magenta. Very little here, but I'll pull it down anyway. So I've got my purple, or I got my colors taken care of to some degree. Now I'm going to go back up here. Usually I mess with this before I mess with the colors anyway. So I'm going to drop the highlights some. I'm going to hit Option and hold it on the Mac. This is going to show me what's clipped. And I'm just going to bring this down. And again, there's nothing set in stone, but I'm trying to get some of the detail back here. I'm going to boost the shadows. And again, I'm doing this to taste. This is going to be my main image where I'm going to get most of my information from for the final. So I want as much information here as I can get. And I boosted the shadows 62, but that's again to taste, and it's going to vary with every other image, so that's not something we set in stone. I mess with the colors here. I will pull the blues back just a little bit because they are biasing a little too hard. Now, interestingly enough, because I've got this color cast and the color temperature is different here in the kitchen, obviously, than it is here. If you look here, this wall's supposed to be yellow. It's supposed to be this color here. And it's not. It's green. It's yellow there. It's who knows what over here. We're going to fix that in Photoshop. Go to detail next, and 40 seems to be a good sharpening. It defaults 40, and depending on the lens, I'll do either less or more. But what I really mess with here is masking. So I'm going to Option and hold Option down on the Mac, go to masking. And what I'm going to do is, obviously with Photoshop and Lightroom, when you do something like this, whatever is white is going to be affected. Whatever is black will not be. So things that don't have a lot of detail in them, like ceilings and walls, don't require sharpening. So I'm just going to pull this up till I get the things that do have detail. And so that's giving me a sharpening here. It's at 37. Again, nothing is set in stone. If I turn it off and turn it on again, you see just a little bit. That's fine. It just tightens things up a little bit. Noise reduction, since I did sharpen, I'm going to hit it with a little bit of noise reduction. I usually do 6 for this camera at ISO 100. Down here to lens corrections, of course, remove chromatic aberration. Enable profile, because this is a lens with a profile, unlike my tilt shift. This is 16 to 35 GM, and I'm running, it's going to be a little bit slow here because I'm running this set off of an external drive, so it's going to show up a little blurry, and then it'll take some time to come in, but yes, it's sharper than what it looks like here. Okay, down here, this is our geometric, our verticals. Make sure we're on cue here. I'm on a bubble level. I'm on a tripod. I'm as close as I can get in camera. That bubble level will get you usually 98% there, just to check with Lightroom and see what it thinks. And this is single point perspective. Lightroom does correct a little bit. I can live with that for now. I might need to tighten it up just a hair in post in Photoshop. We'll see. Okay, done that. Now I'm going to click on the other two. This is my roughly 2 stops below, probably more than that, and then my overblown one. So I'm going to take these, highlight these, hit sync, synchronize everything. Done there. Now I'm going to click back here to this darker one because it did some stuff. Obviously, it gave me the color balance I wanted. It did the other fixes, but I'm just going to check in here because my highlights are pulled. I don't necessarily need them pulled down that much. In fact, I'm going to boost this up just a hair. This is 3/10 of a stop, just to the point that we are clipping. I'm going to bring back the shadows a little bit because I don't need all that, and then go to the last one. Last one. I'm going to bring the highlights back some. I'm going to bring the shadows back some. I'm going to take the contrast and boost it up a little bit because this overblown gets a little hazy. And again, this is a problem. This is not a problem with the image. It's a problem of me pulling this. I'm doing this off of an external drive and not off of an SSD. So all these 3 are done. I'm going to go up here to Photo, Edit in, Open as Layers in Photoshop. Let's see how long this takes. And I'm pulling, these are compressed raw, so they're 42 megabytes, 43 megabytes roughly per image. Let's see how long it takes off the hard drive to load, and it is taking significantly longer. That's what I get for running off an old hard drive. But when I normally edit, these things are on the internal SSD, so things run a lot faster. So again, the way that I edit this is going to be different from other people. I take and go from the darkest here to the lightest, because I'm going to build from this image. Now, another thing people do that I don't do is they will highlight all 3 images. They'll shift click on all 3. You go up here to, auto align layers. Click auto, click OK. I don't do that because sometimes that doesn't work right. Let me deselect. So what I do, again, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to find a fixed object, something I know will not move. That handle works, this knob works, that outlet works. Again, I'm soft in here, and I think that's because I'm pulling off the hard drive and it's not giving me all the information, but be good enough for this. So what I'm going to do is select off and on, toggle it, see that nothing has changed, and I am actually aligned, but let's say I wasn't. Let's move this guy over a little bit. So you can see the jump over here to the right. I'm off to the right. So what I would do is go up here to Move Tool, click it. See, I'm still off. Now I'm back on. Okay, yeah, it takes a little bit more time to do it this way, but it gives me better alignment, I feel, than doing it the auto way. Okay, that one also is lined up, so what I'm going to do is I'm coming down here to Layer Mask. I'm Option clicking on that to hide the mask. Zoom back out. Going to create a luminosity mask. So I am Command clicking on an apple on RGB. I'm going to create a mask based on the light values of this. So I've activated a mask. I'm going to come down here to create layer mask just by clicking here. Shows up as alpha 1. Marching Ants tells me that my mask is active. I'm going to deselect those, Apple D to deselect. I want to modify this to make more contrast because I really only want to affect the brightest of the bright areas. So I'm going to click Command on the apple and M for modify, and it brings up a curve box. I'm going to bring up the highlights, drop down the shadow, so I really am only affecting these brightest parts. Okay, click OK. Now I'm going to go back here, Command click to activate that mask. Come back up here to RGB, click on that, it's going to light up all 4. Deselect the alpha down here. Go back to layers. I have an active mask, which is what I want. Click on the second layer. Again, do not click on your image. You click on the mask. And right now the mask is set to only affect the brightest. I don't want to affect them. I want to protect them. So I'm going to go and invert the mask. So Command I for invert the mask, which I've done. I'm going to Shift and then hold that down, F6 hit. It's going to feather it. I want to feather it by 1 pixel. Did that. The other way to do it is to go to Select, Modify, Feather, and that'll do the same thing. So I feathered this. I'm going to hide it. So Command H to hide the mask. Shift to a brush tool. I hit B. You can also go here and click that. I'm going to switch to a white color for my mask. I'm at a 10% flow, 100% opacity. I can live with that. My brush is 0 hardness, of course. So what I'm going to do here is at 10%, and that's kind of high, but I'm going to paint in. Let's see what I did wrong. Something is telling me I did wrong. So something did do wrong. So I did not invert properly. So let's go Command All. Shift F5, so if you screw up, fill it with black, we're back again. All right, early in the morning I mess up. Let's deselect, go back to channels, click on this mask again. Right here, alpha 1, click, go back. Now, I know what I did. Command, Shift, invert the mask. I did something wrong there trying to invert it, but we'll do it right this time. Shift F6 to feather it. Now we're on track. Command H to hide it. Brush this baby, and that's what I wanted it to do. Again, talking and editing at the same time slow me down, and I tend to make a few mistakes. It's all right, though. We can fix it. This is all non-destructive. I'm going to brush this all in. Now, one thing about this house was it was professionally staged. They did a fantastic job. And when things are staged, I tend not to move stuff. And so in running this, and my OCD kicked in after the shot, I realized that had I had my way, I probably would have taken this stool here and just slid it over about 3 or 4 inches. And I don't know why, I keep looking at this image and thinking that needs to be moved. And yes, I could do that in Photoshop. It would be a lot of cloning. And just to make it look right, and for real estate shot, I don't have the time. Again, I'm going to bring this in to taste, obviously, till things look like they're right. And what we're going to see is with the mask, when I option click on the mask, it shows you. Brought in all this, it left alone those cans. So those cans are protected. So here's off, here's on. All right, I'm going to go just work on the shadows, the darkest areas. Click on the mask at the one above here on the brightest one. take my flow down to 3% because I don't need a lot here. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to work the shadows here on the backsplash just above the cabinets near the oven, and just bring this up a little bit. Bring up on the microwave a little bit, up in this corner. I do want shadows, but I don't want that much. Now this is all natural shadows. This is not, no flash. I did not do any supplemental lighting here. So any shadows you see are shadows that nature intended. Just gonna bring this up a little bit. Come back here, work this case here. Now these lamps did not have electricity, so I love to have light fixtures working. These guys weren't, so I also don't want it to look like dead space. Zoom back out, catch a little bit here. Okay. And again, before and after, this is before I cleaned up the shadows or brought them up a little bit. This is after. So it almost looks like I did a little light painting. Go back to here, hit this. Again, I could spend more time on it, but I don't want to be a 3-hour video. I'm going to deselect. I'm going to go back here to my bottom layer, my darkest layer. I call it my base layer. It's technically not, but I want to bring these levels up just a little bit, get it to the point of clipping, and bring up the bottom information. So I'm going to go here, bring up curves layer. Normally, I would clip this, but because this is only affecting only one layer, the one below it, I don't have to. I'm going to just bring up these high mid-tones just a little bit. And again, this tends to make things look a little more natural. At the same time, it may have affected these super brights some. So I'm going to go back to channels, click on my layer mask here, my luminosity mask, go back here. Now again, I'm affecting only the whites, the brightest, which is good. I'm on this mask again. I'm at 3%. I'm going to invert the colors. So now I'm going to paint black. And I'm just going to paint on the hottest hotspots only. And to show you what I did, let's option click here. And it brought those cans back down just a hair. Bring them back just a hair more. So everything else came up in that except... Let's deselect. So here's my curve before, after. So it brings up things just a little bit. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect, make sure I'm out. I'm going to Command, Option, Shift, and then E. That's going to bring up a new layer. So I flatten things up to a new layer because I want to non-destructively clean things up like sensor dust. I see a couple little spots here, and this happens. Again, I have a mirrorless. This is the bane of mirrorless existence. So you're going to get a few of these, and yes, I keep my sensor clean, but literally anytime you change a lens, you're going to run into this problem. So I've got another one here, but just to make sure I don't have any more that it's hard to see, I'm going to bring up a curves layer again. I'm going to boost everything up, just try to get my contrast a little funky because I really want to magnify these. All right, go back to my layer here, click spot healer, you can click J to bring that up. Go back here, make this just a little bit bigger than my sensor dust, click, and it's gone. Ooh, so 2 more. 1, 2. So see, that does help. 3. Ceilings are good for these. Not good, but I mean, they show up much easier on a ceiling or a wall. That is something on the wall. I'm not going to touch it. For a commercial shoot, I would. Here's a sensor dust. For a commercial shoot, yes, I would fix that. For a real estate shoot, since it's part of the wall, I wouldn't. And again, this really brings out the warts. So I'm seeing all kinds of other flaws. Maybe little bitty scuffs in the paint. They really show up. But what I'm looking for is sensor dust and any garbage like that. Not seeing any more. And again, I might spend a minute or two longer on this than I am here. I'm not seeing anything on this wall. Okay, on the island, not seeing it. And by the way, yeah, my verticals are off just a hair. Even Lightroom didn't fix that, but I can fix it. Okay, click on the curves, bring it back. Next up I'm going to do is color correction. Now, This, since I have a blue problem, I have a blue problem. Now this light here, that was a daylight balanced light underneath a microwave, so that's the only light that was daylight balanced that I can remember in this house. Everything else is tungsten, but that's throwing a little bit of blue here. Obviously the outside's throwing more, so I'm going to go here to HueSaturation. Change my blend mode to color. Click on my color picker down here, set it on a color I don't like, and set hold and drag, and it gets rid of all the blue. And I'm getting a text. Okay, let's get out of that. I know. Why you got to text me now? So let's go down here. All right, so all my blues are pulled out. Something I also do here, let me go back to blues. I know I've got other colors besides blue or bleeding out of the blue. I've got some in the cyan. I've got some going into purple. I'm pulling all that out. So here's a before and after. It gets rid of all that. It cleans it up nicely. The problem is it cleans up things I don't want to clean up. So what I'm going to do is, since I know I only want to protect, I want to protect that painting or the artwork here. I don't remember if it's a painting or not. I think it is. But what I want to do is come here. I'm going to set a polygonal lasso tool. I can't even talk today. Bring it around here. Bring it around the lampshade. Okay, so this is how I'm going to work this mask. Shift, feather it, 1 pixel. Since I'm going back to the mask part, I'm going to bring up my brush, bring this up to about 14%. So I'm painting in black, so I'm actually getting rid of that mask, letting some of these blues shine through. Not everything, just some. Deselect. I'm going to come down here and do this freehand because I know this table did have a little blue. It's a glass table, had a little blue-green in it. Bring back just a hair of this blue. There we go. And I'm okay with the rest of the blue being pulled. If there were other blue parts in here, I would obviously demask or get rid of them. Next thing I'm going to do here is I've got a yellow cast up on top of the ceiling. That ceiling is supposed to be white or close to it, so I'm going to bring this up another HueSaturation color, get my picker, come here and pull that, and I'm going to desaturate all those yellows. I'm going to invert the mask this time and get rid of it. Bring up my lasso tool again. Going to outline this ceiling area here. You can zoom in if you command click plus or minus, zoom in, zoom out. That's on a Mac. On a PC, I don't know. I haven't used a PC in centuries, and I try not to, but to each his own. Ah, and I see another piece of sensor dust there. It happens. Okay, so I'm going around the ceiling. Let me back out of here. Close it off. Shift F6, feather it 1 pixel, brush, switch back to white. And I'm still at 14%, that's fine. Just start pulling out some of that color cast. It's a bounce off the floor and a bounce off the yellow lights here. Just get rid of that. I'm going to command hide so you can see before and after. Okay, I didn't get rid of all of it because some of it is natural. Got rid of most of it. Now, where I also have a problem, I'm going to deselect the image. I also have a problem down here. This is showing up a lot more yellow. This, obviously, because the blue cast hit it, it's showing up as nothing. It's showing up as gray. It's neither. It's sort of yellow. It's got this little tan. I can fix both. I'm going to come down here to my flow, hit 3, and I'm going to just brush out a hair of the yellow. I'm going to do this freehand just to get this back to the more natural state. I'm going to brush off these cabinets, too. Again, I'm going to brush down here just to get a little bit of the excess buildup off the wall. And we're done. Now, for sake of this interview or tutorial, sorry, in here I got maybe a touch of green. I can pull that the same way I pulled the yellow, but I'm not going to because I want to move to something else. And that is, in case I missed it, which I did here, I'm going to bring up another layer. I'm going to go here to where I saw that bit of sensor dust right there, and it's so you barely see it. hit hit the letter J, bring up that, fix that piece of dust. It's gone. Back out. Come on, back out. And I want to color correct this wall. So I'm going to bring up a new layer, switch over my blend mode of color, hit my lasso tool to the left, and I'm just going to color around this wall where I want to be yellow. Now probably with this, a pen tool would work better, but I can make it work with the lasso. Just work around here. And again, this is just to constrain my my painting, my mask. Go here. I'm going to shift click and hit this again, get more of the wall. This is going to add to the mask, come around the countertop here and down. I also have some up in here. Ooh. Didn't go far enough. I'm going to add to this. Add to this area here. I'm going to come up around here, shift click again to add to it. This does not have to be 100% perfect. We're going to get it super close. Around the bottle. And go around the wine glass too. I'm going to shift click again. And I know some of you are saying this is taking way too long for one shot. I do this a lot faster when I'm not talking. That's number one. And let's get this around here. Okay. Now, as you can see, I've got a problem in here. I've selected the whole wall, but I brought the painting in. I don't want to paint this painting yellow. So I'm going to actually deselect part of this. So if I click Option and hold it down, see the sign went from a plus. If I shift click Option minus, I'm actually going to take away from part of this selection here. So Option click hold, go down to select, to deselect part of the mask and bring this around. Now the truth is, this frame may have had a touch of yellow to it. It may have had just a little bit of that tint. Okay. That's all I needed to do. Screwed that up. Don't worry about it. Hit plus. Get that wall back. Plus. Get this wall back. Boy, am I just acting funky today. Okay, that I don't worry about. See, I was a little bit off here. I'm going to add to this. Yeah, I screwed this up a little bit, but that's okay. It shows you how you fix it if you screw it up a little bit. So, let me back out. I'm going to shift click F6, feather at 1. Go to a part of the wall here and switch to brush. Go to a part of the wall with the color I want, which I just did. I sampled it by option clicking sample over here. On that yellow, I'm at 3%. I can go up to about 8. Just dab that color in. And give me some of the color back. And it is adding a little bit of yellow to that green plant, but it actually works here. So give me the yellow back. More yellow here. Dab in there. Deselect. I am going to actually reselect. I want to add this because this did have kind of a yellow tone to it. Shift click to feather, brush. Just give me some of that tone back. Deselect. Another thing I could do and did do before I delivered it, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to fix the color of this. Shift this over, blend it to color mode. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to use my lasso again. Select all around this flooring. And that rug, believe it or not, had some yellow tonality to it. So, option click, Go to brush, grab just a little bit of that tan in there, brush just a touch of this, and I'm at 8%. And it's picking up some of these wood tones nicely, so I'll keep it there. Go back in here, add some of that back to the carpet. If the carpet were a different color, then I would have selected around it, but I'm getting obviously some of the life back into this floor and getting it back to where it should be. Deselect, get the edge here. So before, after, warmed it up nice, and I'm going to bring back, I have the same color tan up. I'm just going to touch this a little bit because this did have a little bit of wood color to it. Just bring back that. And I'm out. Two other things I would fix, and they're very minor, but they're easy fixes. A little reflection, there's a bounce probably off the wine glasses, or maybe there was a tray or a mirror a little bit on the tray. There are two problems here. I could deliver this just like that and be perfectly fine. The other thing is obviously here, there's a bigger problem with that reflection. I could deliver this and it would be fine. But just to show you how I would fix something like that. New layer, of course. So this is all non-destructive. I'm going to use my lasso tool. Again, I'm going to select just around this area here. Just like that. I'm going to get a new tool here over here, gradient tool. This is going to allow me to create a gradient over this. So let me show you what I'm going to do here. So I've got gradient selected. See how my colors changed here? All right, I'm going to sample color up here. That's one side of the gradient. I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to hit the letter X to shift my colors over to the left. Sample here. So now I have two colors sampled. Click, hold, and drag my gradient. Look at that. Sometimes they turn out more funky, other times not. So let me hide this and show you what I've done. So I've given myself a solid color here, and you're going to say, well, it's a little funky. It is. The next thing I would do, I did hide that, but the selection is still active. I'm going to go here to filter, go to noise, add noise. I'm at 1.2%. That tends to work. You can go a little bit higher or lower. I add a little bit of noise to this. Now you still see I've got a problem here. So for me to sell this, I'm going to click a new layer mask. I'm not option clicking. I'm clicking a mask. Oops, I was selected already. So let's do Command Z, undo it, deselect the old mask. Click a new layer mask. Boom, I got a new layer mask. Now, because I'm on a mask, my colors went back to black and white. That's what I want to do. I'm going to hit X, shift to black, go to brush. My flow is 8%. I can go probably up to 15. Now, to sell this, I'm just going to mask out some of this here so it actually flows in. And I did more than I need for this, which is fine because I want to sell this and make it look natural. So here's before, here's after. That's the fix. Do the same thing here. Okay, I'd create another one. I would actually create a larger one and come up around here, all the way around. Make sure I don't hit that and clear that out. But because this is going to be a 5-hour video, if I do that, I'm not gonna. The other thing I would do to this is probably bring back some of the wood tone in those chairs. We can do that real quick. Make sure all my masks are deselected, or my selections are deselected. Come up here, go to color. Now these stool tops, these covers were a little bit of a wood grain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my brush tool, which I'm at 15%. I don't need it there. 4 will do fine. I selected a new, or created a new layer, went and selected color mode. I'm going to click on one of these tan earthy tones and just come in here and brush some of the life back into these tops. I'm doing this freehand. You could constrain this with the pen tool, which would probably be better because I don't want spillover, but all this is done and just brings back a little bit of life into these. And again, if I'm doing this for a client, I'm going to do this a lot more detail oriented. The other thing I would do is I'm going to look on the floor. I don't think I had a problem here because things were really clean here, but if there were dust bunnies or something like that, you could get these off. That may or may not be something. It could be something in the marble. Couple of scuffs here and there on the paint, but that's something that's wear and tear that has to stay. Come back out. I'm going to make sure I've got everything deselected. Go into a curves layer. I want to add a little contrast. Go to linear contrast, and that does a very good job just on its own. I'll probably back it off a hair. Now, for real estate, I generally flatten everything and go. For a commercial, I would save everything. I'd go up here to save as, bring it up to large document format, and title it and save it. For real estate, again, I'm looking more for speed. I'm going to flatten everything here. Go to flatten image. Bring out my guides. So these come from the side. This actually is closer than I thought. I want to see this island here. That is just a hair off on that side. Because I'm a one-point perspective, I want to make sure I'm lined up pretty well, and I actually am. So Command All, I'm going to go to Transform Skew. I'm a little bit off on the right side, so I'm going to pull this out just a hair. Pulled it out by 0.2 degrees. I'm going to do the same on this side because I'm off just a smidge. Same thing. Now, I'm actually pretty good here because I'm below the line here. I'm going to pull this down just a little bit so my horizontals are off just a hair also. Pretty damn good, but just a hair off. So I'm going to pull this down, lift it up on top by, and actually that is very close, just by a hair. Okay, double click it. I'm going to hide everything, back it out just to make sure. Close it out, hit save. It's going to pop out into Lightroom. It's doing this to an external drive, so it's a little slower. One thing I did, I cropped this just a little bit because there was extraneous information. I didn't need all this on the right. I really wanted to showcase this kitchen area. So I did a crop. That's nice. Brought the brightness up just a hint. Try to get this as close to what I saw as I can. Bring up the contrast a little bit. Check my highlights, shadows. Make sure my whites are okay, and I'm fine with that. Actually, didn't bring it up any. Work the blacks a little bit if I need to. Give me a little clarity. Give me a little dehaze. More vibrance. And it's just that's going to bring out a lot of the yellows, which this biased very much to the yellow end, but brings out some other colors too. Vignette I could do but won't, and I would save this out. I would send that out just like that. So that's that one image. A long video of how I do this. Again, when I'm not talking, I can do this in probably a third of the time or less. So I hope that gives you a good idea as to what I would do with a shot like this. Let's go back in again. This is a little softer back here. I think it's just pulling off a hard drive is why it's a little softer. There it goes. It's tightening up. Yeah, so I usually do this off the SSD. Anyway, thanks for watching a super long video. I'm going to have more edit techniques in here. I did a lot in this one shot. I covered a lot of ground here, but definitely it's something you can watch a few times over, pick up a few things. I know I've picked up a ton from other people on the internet. So thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll have more down the road. Comment and shoot me emails or whatever. Visit my website, all that fun stuff. Take care. Have a good one.